The Louisiana Restaurant Association presents Conversations in the COVID Crisis, a special edition podcast to capture the stories of our industry during the most unprecedented of times. Now, here are your hosts, LRA President and CEO Stan Harris and Vice President of Communications, Wendy Warren.
Today we're going to talk about phases of legislation, a new business loan program, and how some of our members have pivoted during this time of crisis. Stan's with us today in between conference calls and meetings. Hi, Stan.
Good afternoon.
Well, how was your Easter weekend? Not the same, I'm sure.
It was beautiful weather for part of the state and horrible weather for other parts of the state. So
I know.
We send our concerns and best wishes out to our friends in Northeast Louisiana who went through some really difficult storms yesterday. And hopefully they will be up and recovering. Fortunately, in Louisiana, I don't think we recorded any fatalities, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's awful hard to deal with that when you're going through all the other things we're dealing with.
Yeah, social distancing while you're trying to move things out of refrigerators because the power's down is probably another level of anxiety.
Makes it a lot more challenging, that's for sure.
So you and I were on a call Friday with the National Restaurant Association and some of our State Restaurant Association peers, and we were talking about some things in the CARES Act that didn't exactly address some of our industry's concerns. Do you want to tell me about that?
When you try to write legislation, our industry looks at this legislation as it's very specific to restaurants, and really it's trying to address the broader economy. That's every retail business, every manufacturing business, every distribution business, healthcare, government, all of these different industries that were impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. So what we were trying to do is work with the leadership and the White House to remind them of a few things that were important to us. We know that under the COVID-3 bill, the CARES Act, we've asked them to look at revising some of the loan restrictions in light of the industry realities dealing with how much is spent on payroll, because we know we're probably not going to ramp up back at full staff levels. And so meeting that criteria for the forgiveness will be virtually impossible. Providing flexibility in the timing of the restaurants to do it. Right now, it's supposed to be 8 weeks after the origination. We've proposed some ideas that would help move that along. Ensure the loan terms match the congressional intent. The term should reflect, will take much longer than the 2 years as discussed in some of the rules. We've been allowed in the legislation a 10-year maturity, and so 2 years seems awfully abrupt to us. And then exemptions for the loan forgiveness reduction, we really want to talk about making these putting some, because of the social distancing protocols going to alter restaurant operations and reducing revenue opportunities. We just need to use some good sense in all of this to make sure that we don't make the restrictions unknown. And then again, the last part that we talked about was deferring some of the tax payments to provide liquidity. Those are things that are just important in the CARES Act that we want to talk about. And then, under the other parts of it, the economic injury disaster loans, we're talking about improving the access to that, improving the employee retention tax credit, things that will help the business to operate and provide some liquidity. So it's more technical in nature, but it really would be very helpful to us to get some of these things placed into a supplemental bill to be able to address this. And they're also talking about an additional $250 billion in lending under PPP. So hopefully that will be part of a global conversation on perhaps what we would call COVID 3.5.
Right. And then we kind of touched on, social distancing and what that means for revenue in the reopening phase. Like, we're going to have to ramp up. What are your thoughts on some of what that may look like?
Well, I think recovery is going to take three approaches. The first approach is we're going to have to partner together with the people from the Department of Health and the governor's office here in Louisiana and GOSEP to be able to figure out when is it going to look like the possibility of us reopening the industry. Mm-hmm. And we need as long a runway for that as possible. We need to be looking, is that 2 weeks beyond this date, 3 weeks beyond this date, 4 weeks beyond the date? And the reason I say that to you is it's not only restaurants that need to come back in and arrange for inventory, check their head count, make sure they have adequate workforce to meet what they project their needs to be. But realistically, the supply chain has the same challenges. Our supply chains, many of them have stopped taking in fresh produce, fresh meats, fresh poultry, have lowered their inventories, and they're not going to be able to flip a switch and say that truck's going to come in tomorrow fully loaded and meet all of their needs. Right. They will certainly show their resiliency to be able to do that, but supply chain and also letting the restaurants ramp up will be very, very important. Number two, which I think is equally important, is determining how we start to communicate what are those best practices in sanitation and monitoring our employees' temperatures and things of that sort that might be part of this return to business. And it won't be business like it was before. We expect there'll be some restrictions on seating. We expect there'll be some restrictions or limitations on the use of your holding bar. We think that there'll be significant restrictions on private events and the size of private dining. We think there may be some restrictions on hours of operations. We're also contemplating how do we discuss this in the context of what do you do with a bar or an entertainment venue. Right. And then the third part with this is, the third step or the third piece of this puzzle is, how do we build the trust of our customers? Because customers, there's pent-up demand when you reopen. People are going to want to come, but if they're going to come back regularly, they've got to understand, they've got to believe that you're looking out not only for the food safety, but for the safety of the people that work there and avoiding transmission and contact at all possible levels. So does it mean enhanced cleaning? Does it mean this temperature monitoring of your employees and sending people home if they're presenting with any symptoms? These types of things will forever change how we're doing it. And lastly, and this is really not one of those three items, but it's going to be a challenge to pull some of the workforce in when they're picking up $847 a week in unemployment benefits if they're currently not employed.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. It really is. I had all of those from our earlier call, and I was kind of like, yeah, that is a lot. The thermometers and checking people's temperatures, face coverings, that's stuff that I'm already seeing that at grocery stores and pharmacies. They're not letting you in right now if you don't have a face mask on. So, it's already something, you're now looking online for someone who makes the prettiest face coverings, and I'm like, really, is that what we're supposed to be focused on right now? But I get it. It's people have a lot of creative time on their hands.
A telephone solicitation for a company that I had bought some custom T-shirts from before, and they have converted their T-shirt manufacturing into making face masks. Right. Now, they're not sexy. They're just black or white like a T-shirt, but they certainly work, and they're certainly inexpensive, and they're available. Right. So, innovation is happening. We're seeing it with our craft brewers and our craft distillers converting to making hand sanitizer. All of those things are innovative, and people are going to try to find a way to make their business stay operational, pay their employees, and try to have some, vision of the future. It's just going to be a different future right now. It's not going to be after a hurricane because we've got other pressures on the market. Airline capacity has been reduced dramatically. We're going to see a curtailment of corporate and association spending and events. We're going to see the on-demand leisure travel is going to be reduced because of the reduction in air travel. We also see yesterday, I think it was, or last week, we saw that CDC and put out some guidance to the cruise lines that they could be possibly shut down for up to another 100 days. And we have a very robust cruise business in New Orleans. So all of those things negatively impact what the opportunity is when we reopen.
Right. And, pivoting is one of the coined phrases that we've heard again and again, and that's what we're going to hear from our members in some of the podcast sessions coming up on this episode. And the last thing we want to talk about is the LED Guarantee Loan Program. And Stan's been working with the governor's office and Don Pearson at LED. You want to tell us about how this program works and, who it's aimed at?
After Hurricane Katrina, the state came up with liquidity for small businesses in a bridge loan program. And it was really to bridge you. That's what a bridge loan means, bridge you from this point to another point. What they did this time is they came up with a much more innovative program, and it's really focused on Main Street small businesses. No more than 100 employees. You can borrow from $10,000 to $100,000. Any bank can participate in this. If your bank's not participating in it, ask them while they're not, because there's still about $25 million, according to Secretary Pearson as of today, that's still available to be committed. It's for immediate liquidity. It's going to help businesses get relaunched. It's going to help them do some of the things that they probably weren't thinking about, where they were going to find these dollars to operate, because this is targeted directly to them. And it has a partial state guarantee, which takes some of the risk off of the banks making the loan. Another part of this that I think is really appealing is that they did not restrict bars or businesses that gain their revenue from video poker from participating in this program. Some of the other SBA programs, as well as things under the payment protection program, a payroll protection program, have limitations on what some of these businesses can be doing to borrow money. So I think it's a great program. I think that what they're doing and how they're approaching this is really rather smart, and they're taking, there's certain things the federal government can do, but when our state set its mind to this, it really went from less than 3 weeks from idea to execution. And for me, that's always really exciting when we see something like that pick up. And, they've now got a direct website where they're able to direct people to it. They don't have to go to Opportunity Louisiana, but they still can. And I think that's going to help small business figure out what's the best way for my business to go forward, and the best way for my business to return to operations. We know there's going to be pressure financially on businesses as they come back. We know it's going to be a challenge with workforce because of the robust unemployment insurance benefits that are being provided. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we balance the expectations of making sure that supply chain's in place, making sure workforce is in place, making sure that we've addressed these mitigation factors or restrictions or limitations to operations. All of the three things that we've talked about: the federal approach to the legislation, the approach with what does recovery look like as we start to move toward this, and then what's the state doing immediately for this with this great liquidity program. So all of those things work together to help our members and our industry.
And that website is ledbizloan.com, and you can apply now until May 29th. Thanks, Stan, for your time, and please stay tuned to hear from some of our members. I'm here with Emery Whalen, CEO and founder of QED Hospitality, operator of Jack Rose Restaurant, Hot 10, Bayou Bar, and Silver Whistle Cafe here in New Orleans at the Pontchartrain Hotel. How are you doing today, Emery?
I am great. How are you, Wendy?
I'm good. I recently read an article that said you guys have totally pivoted, that's the new word, into a new way to keep your people employed and utilize some of these skills that our folks have here in the hospitality industry. You want to tell me all about it?
Yes. So about 2 weeks ago, and I can't believe that it's only been 2 weeks, we saw the writing on the wall. We knew, thanks to the amazing communication we were getting from the LRA and you and Stan, that we were going to have to face some really difficult decisions as restaurateurs. And we knew that there was a high likelihood of our bars, our restaurants, our coffee shops here and in Nashville having to close. And the first thing that we thought of was, what are we going to do about our staff?
Yeah,
it's not like they could go to another restaurant and get another job. If all of the restaurants were doing this, where were they going to go? What were they going to do? How were they going to keep themselves and their families whole?
And that's a huge responsibility that that you guys have, employing all these people there. But this was it's bigger than all of us.
Exactly. And to think about all of the people that really look to us to guide them through a night of service and through these tough times, we couldn't just say, good luck, see you when the doors open again. And we were incredibly fortunate that we were contacted by Divergent via my little brother, who is a senior vice president at a company called Divergent, and they are a medical technology consulting company. And what they saw throughout the development of coronavirus in the United States was as a need for hospitals to really do a pivot as well and start providing a lot of the same care that they used to provide in person via telemedicine. So via a phone call or a video conference with their doctor or their nurse practitioner, where a patient wouldn't have to go into a hospital. And they were starting to ramp up their operations in their division so that they could meet that need. And my brother recognized, and Divergent as a company recognized, that while there was this incredible need on their end to staff, on the flip side, in the hospitality industry, where there were scores and scores of customer service experts that had lost their jobs, there would be this symbiotic, amazing opportunity. And as their need ultimately decreases, ours will increase again when we're ready to open the bars and restaurants. And so it's this perfect opportunity for our employees to stay employed. And one of the really wonderful things that Divergent did was they didn't just hire our staff, they hired QED. So we were allowed to keep all of our employees that wanted to stay on and do this on our payroll, enjoying the same benefits, having this continuity in healthcare, 401k, et cetera, that they've learned to depend on throughout their employment with us. That was still there, and that was so important to us.
So how many of your staff members decided to take this opportunity?
Over 50% of our full-time employees.
Wow.
And every single person that wanted to take advantage of it was able to.
Great. And what are some of the things that we talk about, the transference of skills? What are some of the things that lend themselves to this telemedicine that our employees, our industry is able to easily adapt to?
It has been amazing watching them absolutely crush this part of it. There's the technological part of it, and they've all really done an amazing job of leaning in and wrapping their arms around learning all of these new skills. But where they are really absolutely shining is their job is to talk to these patients, explain to them the opportunity to not go into a hospital and put themselves or others at risk, and really sell something. And they are really good at that, and they're really good at making that Chardonnay drinker who only drinks the California Shards to try something from France, perhaps, or maybe even try a natural wine. It's the same thing. You're convincing someone who's consistently seen the same doctor for years and years and years to try seeing that doctor a different way.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, their conversion rate is higher than people that have been doing this for years.
That's fantastic. I really think that
we're very proud of it.
I think going forward, this event is going to change a lot of things, but I think that it's going to, just like Katrina did, it changed a lot of things. Like we learned how to text message. Well, now we're learning how to video conference. and we're learning telemedicine. Those things have been coming around for a while, but I think this is a big push towards that. It really is fascinating. And when I saw the story, I thought, this is a group. I've worked with you for a while now that are really looking outside the box. And I know that's a cliche, but this was just like, hey, your little brother called you and said, I think this would work. And you said, yes, I do too. Let's make it happen. And within 2 weeks, that's quite incredible.
And they've been on the phone for a week. We managed to pull it off in less than a week. They were training. Our last day of service in the restaurants was Monday, and they were training by Friday.
Monday the 16th, right? Wasn't that the date?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yep.
let me back up a little bit, because the week prior, you and I had been working on another project. And I'm wondering now if there was any relevance or any takeaways in that speech that you were preparing as the keynote for our Louisiana Pro Start Invitational that was going to be at the Convention Center Friday, March the 13th. But we, with the governor's orders, we had to call that event off, sadly. For the safety of our students, our teachers, parents, and all of our judges and volunteers. And what was that keynote speech about?
There's something that we say a lot in QED land, and it's an adaptation of a Maya Angelou quote. And we say people may forget what they ate or what they drank or what we said, but they will never forget how we made them feel. And we're really applying the same things here in telemedicine. We're just making people feel good. Some people are really scared right now, and they're able to make these patients feel good, and it's really, truly a noble thing. A lot of our people got into this industry to serve other humans, and they're still getting to do that. And I can tell you a lot of them are just really grateful to still be interacting with other humans and to have that opportunity to have these conversations. And the stories that we tell, we still have virtual happy hours, and we still find ways for our team to interact. The stories that they tell are just so heartwarming, and it's so good to see them continue to be fulfilled. And it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. The food and the beverage is just a tool to make people feel a certain way, and we're still getting to make people feel a certain way and feel seen and cared for.
That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you taking time with me during this very busy time for you, which is, a time where some of us are wondering what we're going to do, what's next. You guys have found a path through this for the time being, and I'm grateful for you sharing your story with us, and I'm grateful for your volunteer service to the LRA.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Joining us next on the podcast is Jason Jones, Regional Sales Manager for Cisco New Orleans and also an LRA board member. Jason has been in the food distribution business for over 25 years, and he's going to talk to us about what we refer to as grocerants. But he and his clients are calling them something different. Welcome, Jason.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here, Wendy.
Yeah. So you guys, when I emailed you about this concept, you said, yes, I know all about this. We're doing this. What are y'all doing?
Well, we early on figured out that we've got to be different. It took us about 4 or 5 hours to figure out that we've got to be different, that we've got to go to our customers with something other than traditional restaurant business that we've all been a part of for forever. So we said, you know what, we've got all these products here in our warehouse that are traditionally not retail. Retail had a huge demand that completely replaced our restaurant business and restaurant sales until retail hit the wall and just could not keep up with, even though there wasn't product shortages nationwide, they couldn't keep up with the volume of customers coming in and wiping shelves out of staple items. Those same staple items that food service distribution carries and sells to restaurants every day. So we developed a concept called pop-up shops. and presented it to our customers. We introduced it on multiple webinars that we scheduled and got every customer. We had hundreds of customers logged into these prospective customers. We didn't care. It didn't need to be a Cisco account. It just needed to be anybody that needed an idea to try to mitigate their losses, make a profit. They were already starting to do some takeout business, and we said, maybe we can help you with some additional business out there with some concepts. So we introduced this pop-up shop that grew like fire. So many of our customers and prospective customers have taken the idea to bring in staple goods that they could just turn their restaurant, bump some tables up together and put stacks of toilet paper, bleach, soaps, tissues, dry goods, put eggs in the cooler, advertise to the customer that, hey, if you're coming here to pick up a to-go order, or if you just need some staples and you're not comfortable going into a grocery store and maybe having a lot of people walking around, you may be a little bit concerned with that and social distancing, drop by here. You can pick up your staples with a to-go order.
That's a great idea. That is such a great idea.
Fantastic.
So so we were talking earlier, Whole Foods and Rouse's have been doing this for their customers for years. You get a whole chicken to go, you walk around Whole Foods on your lunch break and grab your little non-perishables, and then you go grab a sushi and sit at their little outside area. But this is really like where you guys flip the script, and y'all have something new coming up next week, which is when our listeners will hear this, called Pop-Up Stock Up. And tell me about the difference in that.
So with the pop-up shop, we ask our customers, carry some staple items, advertise it. We helped them with their social media. We gave them print stock. We did all the marketing for them. Our marketing team would just pop in their logo that they could put on Facebook or in whatever social media platform, Instagram, Snapchat. And we helped them design so that they could quickly advertise, hey, drop by and pick up some things that we've already got. Next week, we're introducing to our customers, hey, place orders with us, and we may be able to do more for you. So we've prepared all these fresh meat packages, these small little grab-and-go cases. People are familiar with Omaha Steaks and companies like that. So now all of our Cisco warehouses nationwide are going to carry these little grab-and-go boxes that have 4 top sirloin steaks, 2 stacks of hamburger patties, pork tenderloin or ground pork or ground beef in them. These little prepared packages where our customers will be able to kind of take orders in advance with their customers, and they'll still be able to get their current pop-up shop items, but now they'll be able to stock up on some additional things that customers could say, well, I've been coming by and picking up bleach and paper towels and toilet tissue and things like that from you, and maybe some eggs. Well, now I'll be able to do some kind of pre-orders. I may be able to pick up a box of chicken from you that the customer can break and sell as inner containers. I may be able to pick up a little box of steaks, maybe some produce items that I'm having trouble finding at a retail level. Or since you're making it easy for me, I can drive up to your restaurant, have this order placed out front. You can just drop it in the back of my car, and I can go home.
That's really cool.
So that's our next evolution of this pop-up shop next week.
Is there somewhere that a customer like me can go and see where these pop-up shops are? Is there like a list somewhere?
Now, we are advertising everyone on our Cisco Facebook page. We are putting everyone that we know of that has a pop-up shop on ours. And a lot of these, if you go out and you search for pop-up shop in Grubhub, places like that, you can see them. We have a partnership with Uber Eats. So with just about everybody that's got a pop-up shop with Uber Eats, you'll be able to see it on the Uber Eats site.
Okay.
And if they wanted any information, they can go to the Cisco Foodie site. If they just wanted information, there's no registration, nothing you got to pay for and do. It's just all concepts that we'll help you with. So it's foodie, foodi.cisco.com.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that information. And if you're out there and you're listening and you're looking for a way to keep business afloat for the next few weeks until we come on the other side of this, look at this concept. It's working for some of our members, and it may be able to work for you. So thanks, Jason, for taking some time today, and good luck. Stay safe, and I hope to see you in real life soon.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
All right. Thanks, babe. Next on the podcast is owner-founder of 7-3 Distilling, an LRA member, and my next-door neighbor, Sal Bevilacqua. Bevilacqua.
Like I tell everybody, just call me Sal.
Just Sal. So Sal's my next-door neighbor, and he's also got this great line of products with the tagline, Spirits with a Sense of Place. And if you haven't seen the brand on the shelf, you are missing out because the labels are beautiful and the product is really, really delicious, I have to say. I am a big Gentilly gin drinker, and I do like the Black Pearl rum as well. Those we save the Irish Channel whiskey for Irish whiskey tastings. So you guys have a beautiful facility over on Orleans and North Claiborne, and we're doing tours and have a great merchandise shop, moving product, and then COVID-19 happens. And what can you tell me about what the transition's been like for you? What you're doing now versus what were doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words and the compliments, and for having me on here. I appreciate it. Yes, as you say, we our distillery, it's named 7-3 Distilling. That's a reference to the 73 official neighborhoods. So all of our spirit lines, as you just mentioned, 2 of them are named after neighborhoods, official neighborhood names in the city. And West, we have a tour model. We had a tour model where we had a lot of tourists come through, and we we're located in historic Treme, and we talk a little bit about that, a lot about Storyville, and just introduce everyone to something a little bit deeper than they might get normally, just focused on, French Quarter. So,
right.
Our distillery tour, I'm doing air quotes, is really half history, half distillery. And so that's what I was doing a month ago or 10 years ago, however long that was.
Yeah.
And so, so when this hit, my wife and I were actually going through some personal crises, traveling back and forth to Florida, and it was kind of crazy. And this was just we were obviously aware of it, but we were focused elsewhere. And we were getting on the plane to come back. I was like, you know what, we should just use our 190 to make sanitizer for our customers. And then by the time I landed, we landed, we both had multiple calls asking us, if we can make sanitizer. We had first responders and the government, and
everybody was on the hunt for sanitizer.
Yeah, and especially the government agencies who were really in need of it. All the first responders out there, the hospitals are actually, obviously calling as well, and the FDA then actually put out some guidance. And in short, if you have a manufacturing plant, you already have what's necessary to put a product together and get it out in the market. They allowed us to start making the product without having the particular license you normally need for a sanitizer. And so in essence, distilleries were some of the most suited for this because we're already blending stuff together, and we understand the percentage of alcohol.
Right.
We have access to large amounts of 95% or higher of alcohol, which is the primary ingredient in sanitizer. So it kind of came to the industry and asked everyone who can to make it. And so that's what we started did. So the first idea and the first thing we did was just made some sanitizer for the distillery. We just gave some bottles away with every purchase.
I got one in my mailbox.
Yeah.
I was so excited that day.
I've dropped a couple off in your mailbox. But yeah, and so, that turned into, okay, we need to actually turn our manufacturing plant over to making sanitizer because the amount that's needed is quite staggering. So we literally, Eileen and I, essentially came up with a new business in about 4 days. And the past few weeks, we've been scaling up and kind of perfecting things and making all the registrations and applications we need so the government can track us and all that good stuff.
Right.
And the feedback from our customers has been great. Everybody that we're able to deliver bulk orders for are very appreciative.
Well, I know it's the end of a long day. It's only a Monday when we're talking on this podcast session, but I know you've been working around the clock. You did a major pivot in a short period of time. So I hope it pays off for you. You've been able to keep your people employed, which is really, that's very admirable. And
yeah, in that regard, it's already paid off. I mean, Eileen and I's biggest stressor was our people and what to do, and the bar shut down, and so that was our first priority. And then when we realized the need for the government, obviously that was important as well. So this is just one of the rare things where we're trying to do the right thing, and it's something that was good for our people and then good for the greater good. And ultimately it looks like it's going to save our business and be good for us ultimately. So
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
God bless hand sanitizer.
Exactly. You got to find those silver linings in the middle of a catastrophe.
Yeah, well, it has a really cute label as well. So thank you so much for your time, and this will be on episode 3. So it's coming out tomorrow.
Well, thanks for doing this and thinking of me. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the LRA's Conversations in the COVID Crisis. If you have a story idea, email communications@lra.org. Visit www.lra.org for the latest on COVID-19 resources for restaurateurs. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Until next time, stay safe, everybody. And remember, we at the LRA are working harder than ever for Louisiana's restaurant industry.